can really stick in my fucking craw. The witch one. Sweet Baby Jesus, I don't know if I'd be able to watch like a movie adaptation of this. It's so petty, I know, but it's just like, stop it, stop it. Well, hello, welcome back to my channel. Just Shauna here to talk about some friggin' books. Books I have read or DNF'd recently. There's several DNFs. I think we're about half and half. Yes, we are. I might break this up, so I don't know if I'll talk about all of them that I'm looking at right now, but let's just get into it. The first one was House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson. I read this back in October. This is fantasy, adult, and it's a reimagining of, the lady of something or other, Baroness Bathory. Yeah, right? Yes, Baroness Bathory. But her story is kind of like, is it true or is it folktale or is it true or was it accusations made against her because she was an independent lady? You know, like witchcraft, that kind of shit, or was she actually killing young girls and bathing in their blood? It doesn't seem like anyone is real for sure on this, but that's what it's based off of. And this was kind of a weird one for me because I read it in like under a day, which is very rare for me to do. I couldn't stop reading it. It was very, very readable and like I was just eating it up kind of, but I didn't like love it in the end. I wasn't obsessed. Like my curiosity was definitely piqued. But in the end, I just kind of was left wanting a little bit more. The beginning of it absolutely hooked me 100% when she's in the city and everything. But then as soon as she gets to the House of Hunger, it started to kind of, I don't want to say fall apart, but it just, I wasn't as captivated. And it really seemed to be trying to go for kind of like a Dowry of Blood type of vibe. I'm not saying that the author was like, I want it to be like Dowry of Blood, but that kind of atmospheric vibe and the very like dark vibe and like talking about abuse, like this very real look at an abusive relationship, a manipulative relationship, and how that affects people. Like it seemed to be shooting for that, but it wasn't quite there for me. There definitely were like off vibes from the Countess from the get-go. She didn't seem warm and kind by any means, but we didn't really actually see on page very much of the emotional manipulation and mental abuse until kind of the very end, and we didn't really see how Marion suddenly became like obsessed with the Countess. It just, in my opinion, it just seemed to come out of nowhere a little bit where I was like, wait, but why do you feel this way about her? Like this toxic love thing. But I'm like, what is it? What is it based on though? And we were kind of just told that the Countess is manipulating everyone later on. Like, you're always doing this to us. I'm like, but where? What? I never saw it. And then once we got to the House of Hunger, again, the characters, the side characters all felt a little bit hollow for me. They just kind of fell a little bit flat. But again, I really was captured by my curiosity and the tension and the mystery created. And I actually really do like the author's writing style and authorial voice. I thought it was lovely writing and just very, very pleasing to read. But just this story in particular wasn't it for me. I think I'll definitely check out, I think she only has one other book out right now, the witch one. What is it called? I don't remember. But I might read that one and check it out because I did really like her writing style. So I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. Like, I liked it. I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. It wasn't quite there for me. It was like, yeah, it was cool. It was a cool time. And then I finished Lair of Dreams by Libba Bray, book 2 of the Diviners series. This was, once again, pretty damn creepy, and especially towards the end. Sweet Baby Jesus, I don't know if I'd be able to watch, like, a movie adaptation of this. I think I would be genuinely terrified. I don't think I could. So far, this series is just absolutely engrossing for me. I'm loving it. It is like watching a movie a little bit, because for me, the setting and the characters just come to life. They feel real. It all feels real. I feel like I know them, and like I am just watching them go on this journey. And the mystery of it all, like I'm hooked. And a couple of little things that I don't think this is spoilery at all, but I am so very much rooting for Sam and Evie to be endgame, and Memphis and Theta are so adorable. Oh my god, I love them. And it's looking like Henry might also have a blossoming romance, perhaps. I hope, fingers crossed, because I love Henry as well. And I thought Ling was a great addition to our little ragtag crew we have here of diviners, and I'm really interested to see how she fits in with everyone as the story progresses, and now that she has met everyone else, not just Henry. So, yeah, I really, really had a good time with this. I don't want to say like the plot of this one particularly, but I mean, it's the diviners. I think, God, sorry, there's cat hair hanging out in the book. I think everybody knows what the diviners is, right? It's like set in Prohibition era, 1920s-ish New York, Manhattan. And in this world, there are people who are diviners who have kind of supernatural powers, depending on the person. They can do different things, you know? It's all very creepy vibes. Both of these books so far, there's like, you know, ritualistic, culty serial killer in the first one. And then in this one, there's like freaking demonic possessed ghosts killing people via sleep and like all this. It's very like occult stuff going on, and very, very atmospheric for sure. And this one I gave 4.5 stars. Thoroughly enjoyed. Then I was in the mood after reading House of Hunger and The Diviners, honestly. I was in the mood for more kind of atmospheric, creepy, and I was looking for gothic, you know, those vibes. So I decided to finally pick up Carmela. I got a copy from the library by Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. It's very, very small. It's classic. This is kind of, like Dracula is like the quintessential vampire classic, but Carmela came before Dracula, actually. One thing I will note, this edition has a introduction by Carmen Maria Machado, and shit had me fooled. She talks about like the origination of the story and how Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu like stole the story apparently. And there's like very real characters that it's based on and this and that and the other thing. Yeah, all fake news, all just made up. And there's like a whole interview where she talks about this, and there's like Reddit threads and stuff of people talking about it like, wait, is this real? I can't find this anywhere. And people are like, no, it was just like kind of an elaborate like haha like joke basically. Fooled me for sure. And I enjoyed this. You know, it's a classic, so the writing style is very different from what you're used to, what I'm used to, unless you're like an avid classics reader, which I am not. So, you know, I read very few classics. This writing style is like, it's like the dry kind of writing style. That's how it reads because the language is so different, obviously. But yeah, so nothing about the writing was particularly incredible for me personally. And I kind of thought the ending was pretty dang rushed. Like very rushed, actually. Like, what? Okay, all right, well, we're done. Bye. And the lore and the plot overall as well kind of felt a little bit flimsy to me. I don't know if I was just like, I think I was just expecting a lot more than what we got. And I mean, I guess I shouldn't have. It's very, very small. But the vaguely eerie gothic vibes are here for sure. Just not super, super eerie. It's like eerie. Yeah, not scary, not horror really to me personally. It was fine. It was fine. So I gave this 3.5 stars. A little bit better than middle of the road, but honestly wasn't like, oh my God, I love this now. I was kind of like, okay, well, I read it. Now we're done. We're done here. And then on my quest for, gothic, creepy, atmospheric vibes, and this is definitely gothic, I would say, but I ended up DNFing this one. Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I read 46% of this, and there were parts that I enjoyed in the beginning, especially the writing. I think the writing is beautiful. Particularly in the beginning, it kind of started to lose me as it went on. The first 100, 125-ish pages, I was really rocking with this. I was into it. I was like, fuck, yes, I am here for it. I was reading it very quickly, very, very quickly. Tiny ass font in this mass market paperback that I had, and I was flying through this thing. But the last 50 or so pages that I read, it became a bit of a slog. Honestly, I was just like, okay, what are we doing here? The whole premise of this one is this girl, this young woman, young adult woman, meets this guy while she's traveling with this lady that she works for. What is happening? They meet this wealthy man, kind of aristocrat-ish, who ends up, they fall for each other, and she gets married to him and goes back to his ancestral home with him. And he was married before, and his wife tragically drowned and died a year or so before or something like that. And there's a servant who was the first wife's maid, her main lady, who clearly kind of hates our main character, who is never named, I do not believe. But yeah, Rebecca is the first wife, and just weird stuff is kind of happening. There's definitely something afoot. Something is weird in this house with these people. So yeah, there's definitely mystery and tension created, but it just started to slow down way too much for my tastes personally. And the whole theme of identity, self-actualization, self-assuredness with the narrator and her fucking constant nerves and her painfully shy, weird, awkward as all fuck behavior. Just to the point where you're like, what? No, nobody acts like that, It just started to grate on my nerves, way too much. She just was so fucking annoying. She was so annoying. And characters who just let things keep happening to them and never speak up, who go through life just constantly oh, I don't know. I just thought maybe, oh my God, stop it. Just being a complete pushover, even in situations where nobody is trying to push them over. Fabricating, being a pushover, when you don't need to be. No one was, just stand up. It's just very unpleasant for me to follow this kind of character when they're just incessantly being like this. It just, after a while, I'm like, oh my God, I cannot with you. And I also think I was just expecting it to be way more creepy, eerie, atmospheric. And then I went ahead and I read a chapter synopsis, analysis, whatever, to see how it ends. And I'm totally fine with DNFing it. I'm kind of glad that I DNF'd it because, again, the narrator, the main character, how she responds to things that happen later, I'm just oh my God, you're so annoying. So, yeah, so sorry to everyone who loves this. And I will just end with one more DNF from October. I do have a couple more I could talk about, but they were ones that I either DNF'd or finished in November. So I think I will wait on those. Let me see how long I've been recording. Nah, actually, I think I can fit them all in. So the next one is another DNF, and it's another searching for the gothic kind of creepy vibes. Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Cañas. This one, I had seen a lot of people being disappointed with, but I was still intrigued because from what I gathered, the people who were disappointed, they were expecting it to be horror. I think it was marketed kind of as historical horror gothic romance. And they were like, it's way more just historical romance with like kind of gothic vibes though, and like kind of creepy, eerie vibes, but it's not horror. And I was like, hey, I'm fine with that. I don't need horror. I don't love horror. So I still picked it up, but I ended up DNFing at 53%. I was getting really into it initially, like right off the bat. I was here for it. I was here for the romance and everything. But then the main character was so like stubbornly obstinate, and also, okay, this might be very stupid for some people, like a petty ass reason to DNF a book, but you know, I've DNF'd for less. When there's like a repetitive phrase that is like a stick out phrase, you know, not like character said, like that's like you expect that. You expect to see somebody said blah blah all over and over again in a book, or like whatever, shit like that. This one constantly was feeling something along my spine. That felt a creep along my spine. Felt something along my spine. Tickle at the back of the neck, down my spine, like over and over again. And it was just grating on my nerves too much. And honestly, the plot just kind of started to lose me. It had already kind of lost me at this point, and I wasn't feeling very much like gothic vibes, and I wasn't even really feeling the romance all that much by this point either. So I DNF'd. And then yet another DNF. This one I stopped at 47%. I got pretty into it. And okay, I was not having a bad time with this by any means. I wasn't mad at anything. There wasn't, you know, some petty, like some phrase sticking out over and over again. I wasn't hating it. I just felt very lukewarm. And that is Scorpa by G.R. McAllister. Bummer times. I grabbed this from the library, and I grabbed book 2 because they had it. Because Ray and Monet and Robin all recently read this and like really loved it. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm down. And it sounded really cool. The premise, it's like this queendom. There's 5 queendoms. It's a very matriarchal society. And each queendom kind of has its own thing. Like Scorpica is known for warriors. Like all the women there are intense ass warriors. But then there is a drought of girls where suddenly one year there's like the last handful of girls born, and then no more girls are born for many, many years. And everybody's like, what the fuck? Again, it's a matriarchal society, so they're panicking a little bit and things are happening. And we're following a few different characters across these different queendoms, and things go from there. So yeah, it's like a good premise. And again, I wasn't hating anything. I wasn't mad at anything. I would recommend this if someone likes adult fantasy, and if any of that sounds cool, I'd say pick it up, check it out. You might love it. I just felt so like about it. I was kind of into it initially, and then it was like 3 days of like picking it up and reading and just being like, okay, I don't know. I don't really care, I don't think. And then I just thought about it, like, do I care about knowing what happens? And I decided, no, I don't. So, DNFing this, taking it back to the library. Bummer times. And then, while on my vacation, on the way back, I actually saw the physical book in the airport store, but decided not to buy the physical book because I was like, girl, you don't need more physical books right now, especially one you don't know if you're going to like or not. So I got the ebook, though, of Killers of a Certain Age by Deanna Rayburn. And this is an adult kind of spy thriller. And it's these 4 women who are part of this clandestine spy organization. They have been with this organization for like 40 years. They are all retiring. They were part of like an all-girl squad. All recruited when they were like in their earlier 20s. So now they're like in their 60s, retiring, going on a cruise, getting their pension, whatever. And while they're on the cruise, someone tries to kill them all. And they're like, what the crap? And they figure out that it is the organization that they are retiring from. Someone has ordered for them to be killed. So this is just them trying to figure out why and what are we going to do about it. And I thought this was really fun. I liked it. It wasn't like super deep and maybe not necessarily like super memorable, like in an impactful way. You know what I mean? This isn't a book that's like, oh, it just spoke to me and it's going to stick with me for many years. Like, no, but it was super entertaining for me and it kept my interest throughout. This would be such a fun movie. They've made movies kind of like this with like older people being spies and stuff. And I just felt like the four main characters had a really great dynamic. I enjoyed their dynamics together. And we did get like deeper into their lives a little bit, but it just didn't go super duper deep. And some of the like spy stuff they did, you know, was all of it incredibly realistic? I don't know. Perhaps not. But it was fun. It was fun. And we only got a tiny picture of it. But it makes me very curious because I know Deanna Rayburn has another, like a book series that I'm curious if there's romance in it. Because we got a tiny taste of a romance between Billy and Taverner. And the chemistry was off the charts. Like the banter, the chemistry in this literally one scene. This one scene of them, and I was like, I am obsessed. And I want more of this. So I'm very curious about Deanna Rayburn's other series and to see if there's romance involved. Because if there is, sign me up. I'm going to check it out. So yeah, I had a fun time. Again, I don't know how realistic everything was. I don't know. I'm not a fucking spy or expert on spies. But it was just fun. It was a fun time. Don't think I'll be getting a physical copy necessarily. But I gave this 4 stars. So I quite enjoyed it. I don't know what the vibes are out in the, you know, bookternet about this one. I've seen people talk about this, but I guess I haven't paid that much attention to whether or not people were liking it. But I liked it. I thought it was fun. And then one more DNF, and this one I didn't get quite as far into. I got about 25% into Dead Girls by Nikisa Afia. This is a Harlem Renaissance mystery. It is set in Prohibition era Harlem, New York, and there are girls, black girls, ending up dead that all work at this one place. And our main character, 10 years prior, when she was a teenager, she was kidnapped and with a couple other girls, but she escaped and saved the other girls. And now she's 20-some years old, in her mid-20s, working at a cafe, and she gets recruited to assist the detectives with solving this murder mystery. And I wasn't having a terrible time with this by any means, but as per usual with most of my DNFs, I was just not getting really grabbed by the story or the characters. I definitely, I hate saying it because it feels mean. It's a debut, and it kind of felt like a debut. It felt like a little bit more developmental edits maybe would be needed to kind of elevate the writing a bit. The very beginning, the prologue, like I noticed it almost immediately. Like, I don't love the sentence structure and like the flow of the writing. Like something's off here. So I didn't love that. And then, as I was saying before, a repetitive phrase can really stick in my fucking craw. And this one was pulling up to her full height, pulling up to her full 5'2", pulling herself up to her tallest. Like, it felt like every chapter this was in there at least once. And it's so petty, I know, but it's just like, stop it. It drives me crazy. And again, like, I think more edits could have, and the writing, it was just like clipped and kind of detached. And I felt a little bit detached from the characters too. I didn't feel like they were developed super well either. Wasn't mad at it. Like I said, I wasn't having a terrible time. Those phrases coming up, I was kind of like, oh my God, stop. But aside from that, it was like fine. I just realized like I'm not loving this. And there's certain things that are kind of bugging me. Let's just call it quits, you know? Yeah, so many DNFs recently. My God, I was kind of on a kick there for a minute of like not having too many, like, oh, one a month or something. But yeah, ramped it up recently. What are you gonna do? But that is all. Let me know if you have read any of these. Are you surprised by my opinions on any of these, if you have read them? Or does it check out? with what you would expect me to like or not like. Can, of course, leave a little emoji if you want to make your presence known. Helps with the engagement. Much appreciated. As always, thank you so much for your time. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.